dying man crawled into a small western town, holding a map and a handful of gold. His voice was weak, but his warning was clear. The gold sings, but everyone who tries to take it never comes back. Tonight, we follow the desperate men who ignored that warning and rode into a canyon filled with riches, danger, and graves. Before we gather around this fire, let us remember those who walked these trails before us. May their stories guide us, their courage inspire us, and their mistakes warn us. To the forgotten souls of the frontier, we remember. If you're ready to ride into the smoke with me tonight, type "I'm in for the smoke." Step into the smoke, and let's begin. In the Old West, gold could make a man rich, or it could destroy him. This is the story of a hidden canyon where the gold is so bright it almost feels alive. A place where the wind hums, the rocks whisper, and the ground is filled with the bodies of men who wanted too much. Our story begins with a dying prospector and a map that should have stayed buried. The desert was cold that night, the kind of cold that cut through cloth and bone. Jonah Pike knelt beside the dying prospector, watching the man's trembling fingers struggle to hold onto the torn map pressed to his chest. The lantern beside them flickered as if afraid of the darkness around them. The old man's breath rattled like loose pebbles in a dry pan, and his sunburned skin looked stretched too thin over his bones. When he opened his eyes, they glimmered, not with life, but with fear. "Boy," he whispered, voice cracking like dry twigs. "I found gold, gold so rich it sings." Jonah frowned, thinking the man's mind had wandered away. But the prospector pulled him closer with surprising strength, his cracked fingernails digging into Jonah's coat. "Promise me, you won't go alone. Promise me you'll take good men, strong men, because that canyon..." His voice broke into a chilling cough. "It don't give back what it takes." The wind changed, sudden, cold, twisting around them like a warning. Jonah felt it. Something was watching from the ridge, something tall and still as stone. But when he blinked, it was gone. The prospector pressed the map into Jonah's hand and whispered his last words. "Turn back, if you hear it sing." Then the life slipped from his eyes, leaving the desert silent except for the faint hum Jonah prayed was just the wind. The saloon was quieter than usual when Jonah pushed through the swinging doors, dust still clinging to his boots from the long ride back. The men inside paused their conversations, sensing the weight he carried. Jonah laid the torn map on the table where Eli Sutter, Hank Briggs, and Cole Maddox sat drinking cheap whiskey under the warm glow of a lantern. Hank leaned forward first, broad-shouldered, bearded, and always hungry for gold. "What's this?" he asked, tracing a finger along the jagged canyon lines. "Dead man's warning," Jonah said. Cole chuckled, spinning his empty glass. "Or a dead man's treasure." Eli, the quietest of the group, stared long at Jonah. "You saw something out there, didn't you?" Jonah didn't answer. He didn't need to. The cold wind that blew the saloon doors open spoke for him. The lantern flame trembled, shadows stretching across the walls like hands reaching for them. "There's gold," Jonah said finally, "but the man who found it died in terror." Hank grinned. "Men die for a lot less." The wind howled again, louder this time, carrying with it the faintest echo Jonah couldn't shake. Like a distant hum, the men exchanged looks. A decision was made, and trouble began the moment they agreed to follow that map. The morning sun clawed its way over Blackstone Ridge as the four men rode out, their horses kicking dust into the crisp air. Jonah led the way, the map tucked safe inside his coat. The land ahead was harsh and scarred, shaped by years of wind, sun, and stories better left untold. As they crossed the ridge, the quiet was broken only by hooves on stone. But Jonah felt it again, the sense of being watched. He turned, and for a heartbeat he saw it. A tall, thin figure standing on a far-off ridge. Still, silent, staring at them. Then, as the clouds shifted, the figure faded into the rocks, like smoke dissolving. "You see something?" Eli asked. "Probably just a shadow," Jonah lied. But the truth sat heavy in his stomach. The desert had shadows that moved on their own. Hours passed, and the air grew colder as they neared the canyon mouth. The horses jerked their heads nervously, sensing something in the ground, a quiet vibration like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Cole finally broke the silence. "Feels like riding into a grave." Jonah didn't disagree. Even the wind refused to follow them anymore. They camped near a dead, twisted tree, its branches reaching toward the sky like broken fingers. The fire crackled low, fighting against the cold that settled deep into the canyon's teeth. Jonah lay awake long after the others slept. That was when he heard it. A faint hum, soft at first, like the sound of breath inside a hollow room. It drifted through the canyon walls and wrapped around the camp like mist. Jonah sat up, hand on his revolver. Then he saw them. Footprints, bare footprints circling the camp. Fresh. No man had walked barefoot in this cold. Jonah kicked Eli awake. "Look!" Eli's eyes widened as he followed the strange pattern. Footprints weaving between their bedrolls, around the horses, right up to the fire, then suddenly stopping. "Where's Hank?" Eli whispered. Hank returned moments later, stumbling out of the dark with a shaky laugh. "You boys look spooked." "Hank," Jonah said, "did you make these tracks?" Hank shook his head. The wind died, the hum deepened, and the fire flickered sideways as if something had brushed past it. By morning, the air had turned sharp enough to hurt their lungs. Jonah rose early, checking the footprints again, only to freeze. They had moved. The circle of footprints had widened during the night, and now there were 2 sets of tracks. Cole swore under his breath. "Whatever did this is playing with us." The ground vibrated faintly beneath Jonah's boots, almost like a soft warning. He knelt, touching the cold earth. Eli stared at him. "You hear it too, don't you?" Jonah nodded slowly. "It's humming again." A sudden gust tore through the canyon, blowing sand into their faces. The horses whinnied violently, pulling at their reins. Something unseen had spooked them nearly into madness. Then, all at once, the humming stopped. The silence that followed was worse. Jonah looked around at the empty canyon, at the footprints, at his frightened friends. "We keep moving," he said. But deep in his heart, he knew the canyon was already awake, and it wanted them inside. The canyon narrowed as they walked, its tall stone teeth leaning inward like a mouth preparing to swallow. Jonah felt the strange hum again, low, steady, and growing stronger with every step. It crawled through the soles of his boots, up his legs, into his ribs. He stopped suddenly, dropping to one knee, pressing his ear to the ground. At first he heard nothing but the thud of his own heartbeat. Then, a whisper. Soft. Human. "Turn back." Jonah jerked upright, eyes wide. "You heard it, didn't you?" Eli said. Hank scoffed. "The wind plays tricks." But there was no wind. The air was still as death. The canyon walls ahead were marked with strange carvings, long lines like claw marks dragging downward. Golden dust glimmered faintly inside the cracks. Cole reached out to touch one, but Jonah grabbed his wrist. "Don't!" Cole pulled away, annoyed, but he didn't touch the rock again. The hum deepened, shaking loose dirt from above. A few pebbles rattled down the cliffside like tiny warnings. Jonah stared ahead. The canyon wanted them to stop, but something deeper inside was calling them forward. They stepped deeper into the tight passage where sunlight could barely reach. The canyon floor shimmered faintly with gold veins pulsing like slow-moving fire beneath the stone. Each pulse released a soft humming sound that felt almost alive. Cole whistled nervously. "Ain't never seen gold glow before." Hank grinned. "Means we're close to the mother lode." But Jonah wasn't smiling. The deeper they walked, the more the canyon felt wrong, like the walls were gently rising and falling, breathing. When he turned around, Jonah froze. The entrance behind them, only a few minutes away, was gone. It had faded like a dying mirage, replaced with more canyon. "This place ain't right," Eli whispered. The hum grew stronger. Dust drifted upward, not downward, as if gravity was confused inside this cursed throat of stone. Jonah tightened his grip on his lantern. "We keep moving," he said quietly, because now they had no choice. The canyon tunnel ahead grew darker, swallowing the last of the daylight. Shadows clung to the walls like living things. Jonah lit his lantern, lifting it high. That's when the hum changed. It wasn't just noise anymore. It was breathing, slow, steady, and enormous. Cole stepped forward, his boot landing on a thin seam in the rock. The moment he did, the ground cracked open beneath him with a loud snap. Jonah grabbed his coat, yanking him backward just as golden light surged from the crack like molten sunlight. "What was that?" Cole gasped. Jonah stared at the glowing seam. "It's not a seam," he whispered. "It's a warning." The crack widened briefly, bright and hungry, before sealing shut as if nothing had happened. A pulse of warm air blew from beneath it, brushing their legs. Hank kicked a stone toward the crack. Before it landed, the ground split open again and swallowed it whole. The canyon growled. Eli swallowed hard. "Jonah, something's under us." Jonah tightened his grip on the lantern. They were walking on top of something alive. The canyon narrowed to a stone bridge suspended over a deep pit glowing faintly gold. Jonah crossed first, testing each step. The bridge groaned under their weight, flakes of stone drifting off the sides into the shimmering darkness below. Cole followed behind Hank, nervously glancing at the pit. "Feels like it's looking at me." Hank laughed. "It's a hole, Cole. Holes don't look." But the hole did look, and it moved. A swirl of golden dust rose from below, spinning upward like a slow tornado. The humming grew louder. Cole stumbled, losing his balance. Jonah spun just in time to see the stone beneath Cole's boots crumble like soft clay. "Cole!" Jonah lunged, reaching out, but the stone bridge split open like a mouth. Cole fell, his scream echoing through the canyon. The golden dust wrapped around him like hands, pulling him downward. Then, silence. The pit sealed shut. Eli stood frozen, tears in his eyes. Hank's hands shook as he backed away from the edge. Jonah stared into the place where Cole vanished. The canyon had taken its first. They moved slower now, shaken and silent. Every sound felt sharper in the dark tunnel ahead. Jonah's lantern light cut through the blackness, revealing strange carvings on the walls, faces twisted in fear, hands reaching upward. The hum returned, low and rhythmic. Then Jonah saw it, a figure standing in the center of the tunnel, barefoot, covered in mud. Its head bent forward, a cracked gold pan hanging over its face like a mask. "Sir?" Hank called out. The figure didn't move. The gold pan shimmered faintly in the lantern light. Then, without lifting its head, a voice whispered from deep within the mask, "Turn back." The ground trembled as thin cracks of gold spread beneath the figure's feet. "Jonah," Eli whispered, that ain't human." Before he could answer, the canyon floor split open again, hissing like steam escaping. The masked figure slowly lifted its head. Behind the gold pan, eyes glowed bright as molten gold. The canyon hummed. The figure stepped forward. The masked figure stepped closer, its bare feet leaving faint golden prints on the stone. Jonah raised his lantern, and the creature froze. But not out of fear. It tilted its head like it was listening to something deep inside the canyon. Then, slowly, it lowered itself to the ground and pressed its ear against the stone. as if waiting for instructions. The hum beneath them grew louder. The ground vibrated like something was waking. Then cracks burst open around the creature, thin at first, then widening. Pale hands emerged from the splits in the earth, gripping the edges and pulling up bodies covered in dust and mud. Their eyes glowed faintly gold, empty yet aware. Eli stumbled backward. "Jonah, they're everywhere." Hank pulled his revolver and fired at one of the rising figures. The bullet struck its chest, dust sprayed out, but the creature didn't fall. Instead, it slowly turned its head toward Hank, expressionless. Jonah grabbed Eli's arm. "We run, now!" They sprinted down the tunnel while dozens of pale bodies dragged themselves free. The masked figure rose, pointing one long arm toward them, and the dead followed. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber split by a deep chasm. A narrow stone bridge stretched across it, a path carved by time and death. Jonah didn't trust it, but the dead were closing in behind them, their footsteps echoing like soft drums. "Go!" Jonah shouted. They ran across the bridge, each step sending small chunks of rock falling into the glowing void below. The hum vibrated through the stone so strongly that Jonah's teeth hurt. Halfway across, the dead reached the bridge entrance. They didn't scream or growl, they just stood there, watching with glowing eyes. Then one stepped forward. As its foot touched the bridge, the entire structure vibrated. Cracks spread across its length. "Faster!" Jonah yelled. Eli nearly slipped, grabbing Jonah's coat for balance. Hank jumped the last few feet to solid ground. Behind them, the bridge began to collapse. Dust and fragments fell like rain. The dead did not follow. They simply watched, as if knowing the canyon had more plans for them ahead. Jonah turned away, breath shaking. The bridge fell silent behind them, swallowed by the golden abyss. They entered a twisting passage where the walls seemed softer, almost like carved clay. Jonah's lantern cast shadows that moved strangely, stretching long even when he wasn't moving. Hank walked ahead, muttering, "Gold ain't worth this." He placed a hand on the canyon wall, and it grabbed him. A stone hand burst from the surface, gripping Hank's wrist with crushing force. Another hand emerged, seizing his shoulder. His scream echoed as the wall pulled him backward. "Help me!" Jonah and Eli lunged forward, grabbing Hank's arms, but the stone kept pulling, its grip unyielding. A face formed in the wall, ancient, with hollow golden eyes and a mouth shaped in a silent scream. "It's taking him!" Eli cried. Hank's boots scraped the floor as he was dragged halfway inside the stone. Jonah pulled harder, veins straining, muscles burning, but it was no use. With a final jerk, the canyon swallowed Hank whole. The wall turned smooth, silent, as if he had never existed. Jonah fell to his knees, gasping. The canyon didn't just kill, it collected. Shaken, Jonah and Eli stumbled deeper into the canyon, grief weighing their steps. Hank's disappearance echoed in their minds like a wound that wouldn't close. But the canyon wasn't done. They found a small chamber ahead where something sat curled in the corner. At first, Jonah thought it was an animal, but when his lantern light touched it, the shape lifted its head. "Cole," Eli whispered. It looked like Cole. Same face, same clothes, but its eyes glowed gold. It didn't blink. Then Cole's voice spoke, but the creature's mouth didn't move. "You left me," Cole's voice echoed from everywhere. The walls, the floor, the air. Jonah stepped back, shaking. "That's not him." The false Cole rose, limbs stiff and unnatural. Gold dust leaked from cracks in its skin. It stepped forward, head tilted too far to one side, as if studying them. Eli raised his gun with trembling hands. The creature smiled. Its teeth were gold. They fled the chamber, running blindly through twisting tunnels. The hum followed them like a heartbeat, guiding them deeper. Jonah's lantern flickered as they entered a large cavern where the floor dipped into a wide pit. The pit glowed with swirling gold dust. Beautiful, almost mesmerizing, until Jonah looked closer. Faces, human faces, pressing against the surface beneath the gold, mouths open in silent screams. Hands reached upward, sinking and rising like drowning souls. Eli covered his mouth, horrified. Dear God! Jonah knelt at the edge, breath shaking. Among the floating faces, he saw one he recognized. Cole, or what remained of him. The golden dust spiraled, pulling the faces into patterns like a living river. The canyon hummed louder, almost eager, almost hungry. Then the dust formed a shape. A human figure rising slowly from the pit. Its body was made of gold and shadows. Its face, Jonah's own face. The figure opened its golden eyes, and it smiled. The figure that rose from the pit stood perfectly still, its molten gold body reflecting Jonah's lantern light like liquid fire. It looked exactly like Jonah. Same height, same build, even the faint scar above the eyebrow. Only the eyes were different. They glowed with a soft, unnatural gold that pulsed like a heartbeat. Eli stepped back, whispering, Jonah, it's you. The golden Jonah tilted its head, studying Jonah with unsettling calm. Then, slowly, its chest expanded as if taking a breath. When it spoke, its voice was Jonah's, but layered with dozens more, echoing through the cavern walls. You should not have come. Jonah felt the ground tremble beneath his feet. What are you? The creature stepped forward, and its feet left shimmering gold prints on the stone. Gold dust leaked from its joints as it moved, drifting upward like smoke. I am what remains, it said. Without warning, the creature lunged, not running, but gliding across the stone like liquid metal. Jonah grabbed Eli and pulled him away, just as the creature's hand slammed into the ground, melting the rock beneath it. Run! They fled the cavern, the golden figure following with inhuman grace, humming softly like the canyon itself was singing through it. Jonah and Eli rushed into a narrowing tunnel, the sound of the creature's pursuit echoing behind them like metal scraping stone. Jonah held his lantern high, but the flame danced wildly in the unnatural breeze blowing from all directions. The walls began to move. Not fast, but slowly, steadily, closing like the throat of a giant. We're trapped, Eli shouted. Jonah scanned the walls, searching for anything, a crack, a passage, a weakness. Then he saw it, a thin slit in the stone, barely wide enough for a man to squeeze through. Here! Jonah grabbed Eli's coat and shoved him toward the slit. Eli squeezed through first, scraping his shoulders on the rough rock. Jonah followed, pushing with all his strength as the walls inched closer. Behind him, the golden creature reached the narrowing tunnel, its glowing hand touching the stone. The rock melted at its touch, hissing, bubbling. Jonah forced himself through the slit just as the canyon walls slammed shut behind him with a deafening thud. Silence. But the hum on the other side of the wall told him the creature was still there, waiting. They found themselves in an enormous chamber lit by soft gold radiating from cracks in the walls. Old mining tools lay scattered on the floor, rusted pickaxes, broken shovels, torn maps pinned under stones. Eli picked up a rusted lantern. People were here. A lot of people. Jonah walked toward a carved pillar in the center of the room. The carvings showed men digging downward into a canyon, deeper and deeper, until their bodies blended into the stone. Some carvings showed faces screaming, others showed hands grasping for air. This place, it trapped them, Jonah said quietly. Eli joined him, tracing a shaking finger along a carving of a man sinking into gold. Why? What is this canyon? Before Jonah could answer, a low rumble rolled through the chamber. Dust fell from above. The carvings began to shift, slowly, horribly. The carved faces turned their eyes toward Jonah. Their stone mouths opened in silence. A cold wind blew across the chamber, carrying faint whispers. "Help us." Eli backed away, horrified. Jonah stared at the living stone, feeling the canyon's hunger pressing in. This was no mine. It was a grave. Eli and Jonah hurried down another tunnel, searching desperately for an exit, a path upward, anything that resembled escape. Their lanterns flickered, casting shaky shadows against the canyon walls. Then, without warning, a hand burst through the stone. A human hand. Small, trembling. "Help me," a voice cried. Cole's voice. Eli gasped and stepped forward, tears filling his eyes. "Cole, is that—" The fingers bent backward in impossible angles, snapping like twigs. The skin peeled away, revealing gold beneath. The hand twisted, reforming into something not human. Jonah grabbed Eli and yanked him away, just as more hands burst from the stone, long arms stretching unnaturally, reaching, groping, blindly. The hum intensified, shaking the tunnel. Eli stumbled. "They're trying to pull us in, like Hank." Jonah fired his revolver at one of the hands. The bullet sank into the stone, sending a ripple across the wall. The canyon roared in response. Not angrily, hungrily. They sprinted forward as dozens of golden arms erupted from the walls like weeds breaking through soil. The canyon was alive, and it wanted them. The tunnel opened into a long passage where faint daylight trickled down from a crack high above. Jonah felt a spark of hope, an exit, maybe. But then he froze. A figure stood in the center of the passage. Thin, dirty, barefoot. His hair hung wild around his face, and his clothes were torn almost to rags. "Isaac?" Jonah whispered. The man turned slowly, eyes hollow but alive. "Jonah?" Eli stared in disbelief. "Your brother? He's real?" Jonah stepped forward, overwhelmed with emotion. "Isaac, how are you here?" Isaac opened his mouth to speak, but dozens of stone hands exploded from the walls, grabbing his legs, his arms, his torso. "No, no!" Jonah lunged toward him, but Eli held him back as the canyon dragged Isaac toward the wall. "Jonah!" Isaac screamed. "Don't let it take you too!" His body was pulled halfway into the stone. Jonah clawed at the rock, tears burning in his eyes. "Isaac, hold on!" But the canyon showed no mercy. With one final pull, Isaac disappeared into the wall. The stone sealed shut. Smooth, silent. Isaac was gone. Jonah sank to his knees, his chest heaving as he stared at the smooth stone where Isaac had vanished. His hands trembled. He felt hollow, like something inside him had cracked open. Eli knelt beside him, voice soft but shaking. "Jonah, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But Jonah didn't hear him. The hum beneath the canyon deepened, vibrating like a heartbeat, slow, powerful, ancient. The ground pulsed beneath their boots, warm as living skin. The walls shivered as if breathing. Then Jonah heard it. Isaac's voice, faint, echoing from deep inside the stone. "Jonah, don't stay here." Jonah stood abruptly, pressing his palm to the canyon wall. Isaac, answer me." The stone remained warm but unmoving, like muscle beneath flesh. The faint voice faded. Eli grabbed Jonah's arm. "It's not him anymore. This place is using voices. It's mimicking them. We need to keep moving." Jonah shut his eyes, grief stabbing him like a blade. But Eli was right. The canyon wasn't just killing. It was absorbing, learning, growing. He wiped his face, steadied his breath, and picked up the lantern. "Then let's finish what we started," Jonah whispered. The canyon hummed again, almost approving. They reached a chamber where the walls split open into a vast underground gorge. A river, if it could be called that, flowed at the bottom. But it wasn't water, it was gold. Molten, swirling gold that moved like thick liquid sunlight, glowing brighter with each pulse of the canyon's hum. Its glow illuminated the high walls, revealing hundreds of human shapes embedded in the rock, frozen in terror, reaching out, half absorbed. Eli whispered, "Dear God, this is where they all went." Some of the stone figures still twitched, some blinked, some mouthed silent screams. Jonah felt sick, the glow reflecting in his wide eyes. The gold vein, it wasn't meant to be found. The canyon rumbled, and a section of the golden river surged upward, forming tendrils like liquid fingers reaching toward them. "Run!" Jonah shouted. They sprinted across a narrow ledge, the molten gold following like a predator sensing prey. It hissed against the stone, heating the air with each pulse. The hum rose higher, the river grew louder, and Jonah understood. This wasn't a vein, it was a bloodstream. The passage narrowed again as they fled, the glow of the golden river fading behind them, but the humming didn't fade. It grew sharper, clearer, like a voice learning to sing. Jonah pressed his hand to his ear. "Do you hear that?" Eli nodded, terrified. "Jonah, it's forming words." The hum shifted into a low, wavering melody, beautiful and haunting. The canyon walls vibrated, shedding gold dust that drifted like falling snow. Then the melody twisted into something almost human. "Sty, Sty." Eli stumbled backward. "It's trying to call us deeper." Jonah clenched his jaw. "We're not listening." But the canyon didn't take refusal kindly. The ground cracked behind them, releasing spirals of golden dust that formed shapes, vague silhouettes of people crawling on hands and knees. The silhouettes reached for them, stretching with each pulse of the song. Jonah grabbed Eli's arm. "Move!" As they ran, the singing grew louder, filling the air like a choir of lost souls. The canyon wasn't humming anymore. It was calling. The tunnel opened into a quiet, eerie chamber lined with hundreds of stone mounds. Each mound was shaped like a human body, lying peacefully with hands folded across the chest. Jonah approached one and brushed the dust away. Underneath, he saw the faint outline of a face. Eyes closed, lips slightly parted. "Graves," he whispered. "These are graves." Eli stepped carefully between them, fear twisting his features. "Jonah, they look recent." Jonah swallowed hard. "We're walking through a cemetery." He knelt beside one of the mounds, lantern trembling in his hand. The gold dust on the floor glittered in the warm light, then the mound moved. Just a twitch. Jonah froze. Another mound quivered. Another. Dozens. Eli backed up slowly. "Jonah, they're waking." The mounds began to split open, releasing pale hands that clawed at the air. The dead rose slowly, their bodies stiff like clay. Their eyes opened, each one glowing with dim golden light. The graves weren't graves. They were waiting rooms. Jonah and Eli bolted toward the far tunnel as the dead reached for them, silent and relentless. They ran through a narrow corridor, the sound of dozens of stone-worn footsteps chasing them. Jonah's lantern flickered violently, barely holding on to its flame. "Not now," Jonah whispered, shaking it. "Please, just hold." The canyon growled. A sudden gust of hot air rushed through the corridor, blowing sand and dust against them. The lantern flame wavered, then died. Darkness swallowed them. Eli gasped, "Jonah, I can't see." Jonah reached for him, but the ground trembled violently, throwing both men against the wall. The hum surged, now sharp and angry. In the pitch black, Jonah could hear shuffling footsteps, slow, deliberate, drawing closer. He fumbled for the spare match in his coat, but his hands shook wildly. A cold hand touched his shoulder. Jonah flinched, heart pounding. "Eli?" "I'm over here," Eli whispered from several feet away. The hand tightened. Jonah struck the match. The brief flare of light revealed a pale face inches from his own, eyes glowing gold, mouth open in a silent scream. Jonah screamed and shoved the creature away as the match burned out. Darkness again. But now the footsteps were everywhere. Jonah stumbled through the darkness, reaching blindly for the tunnel wall. The air around him grew warm, too warm, as if he were standing beside a giant furnace. The hum deepened into a long, steady vibration that shook dust from the ceiling. "Eli," Jonah shouted, "I'm here." Eli's voice echoed from somewhere ahead. Jonah crawled toward that voice, hands scraping against the rough stone floor. Then, suddenly, the darkness gave way as he entered a massive chamber. Faint, natural light dripped down from cracks high above like thin silver threads. Jonah froze. The walls were moving, slowly rising and falling, expanding and contracting like the ribcage of a sleeping titan. Eli stared in terror. "Jonah, the canyon is alive." A burst of warm air blew across the chamber, lifting Jonah's hair. The ground pulsed beneath his palms with a strong, rhythmic beat, a heartbeat. They weren't inside a cave. They were inside something breathing. The hum vibrated through the stone, growing faster, angrier. The canyon didn't want escape. It wanted consumption. "Eli," Jonah whispered, "this place is waking up." And it knew they were still inside. A massive rumble rolled through the chamber, nearly knocking Jonah off his feet. Cracks of gold burst across the ground, spreading outward like lightning. The walls shuddered violently, shedding chunks of stone that crashed around them. Then something rose from the far end of the chamber. At first, Jonah thought it was part of the canyon wall, but as it lifted itself free, dust raining from its massive shoulders, he realized it was a creature. A colossal being made of stone and gold veins, shaped like a man but towering like a mountain. Its eyes opened, glowing molten gold. The canyon's heartbeat thundered, matching the creature's slow steps. Eli stumbled backward. "It's born from the canyon. It is the canyon." The golden giant moved one titanic foot, and the ground cracked beneath it. Jonah grabbed Eli's arm. "Run!" The creature roared, a deep, resonant sound that shook the entire chamber. Golden dust erupted from its mouth like smoke, drifting upward in shimmering clouds. It swung one massive arm, smashing a pillar of stone and sending boulders flying. Jonah and Eli dove behind a rock outcrop as debris exploded around them. The canyon had revealed its true guardian, and it wanted them gone. As the gold stone beast tore through the chamber, Jonah spotted something. A narrow passage high on the wall, half hidden behind a column of stone. Daylight streamed from it. "Eli, up there." Eli followed Jonah's gaze. "That might be our way out." The creature roared again, the sound shuddering through the canyon's ribs. Jonah seized Eli's wrist, and together they sprinted toward the tall stone column. They climbed it as the ground shook, slipping on loose rock. Halfway up, the beast slammed its fist into the base of the column. The entire structure lurched, nearly throwing them off. "Faster!" Jonah yelled. They scrambled upward, fingers bleeding, lungs burning. The canyon roared beneath them, and golden light surged across the walls like fire chasing them. Jonah reached the narrow passage first and pulled Eli through just as the column collapsed behind them with a deafening crash. The beast swung blindly, its golden eyes glowing with fury, but it was too large to follow. Jonah and Eli crawled through the tight passage, dust filling their throats. For the first time in hours, they saw the sky. The passage opened onto a steep slope leading upward toward a jagged crack of sunlight. The air was fresher here, still cold, but real, untainted by the canyon's strange breathing. Jonah collapsed to his knees, gasping. Eli leaned against the wall, shaking uncontrollably. "We're almost out," Jonah said. "Are we?" Eli whispered. "Because I still hear it." Jonah listened. Faintly, very faintly. The canyon's hum followed them, distant yet insistent. As they climbed toward the sunlight, the ground trembled beneath their hands. Golden dust leaked from small cracks around them, drifting upward like glowing ash. "The canyon doesn't want us leaving," Jonah muttered. A sudden blast of hot air rushed through the tunnel, nearly knocking them backward. The hum deepened. Eli slipped. Jonah grabbed him, pulling him up. "Don't look back," Jonah said. "Just climb." They reached the final stretch, a narrow mouth of rock opening into blinding daylight. Jonah shoved Eli upward first, then pushed himself through. As he crawled into the open desert, the canyon's hum rose to a howl, a furious cry, a warning, a promise. Jonah and Eli staggered into the daylight, collapsing onto the warm sand outside the canyon. The sun felt unreal, too bright, too alive. They lay there catching their breath, letting the silence wash over them, but it wasn't silent. The canyon behind them pulsed softly, its hum drifting into the open air like the dying sigh of a giant. Eli pushed himself up, tears in his eyes. "We survived, Jonah. We actually survived." Jonah stared at the canyon mouth. He didn't trust it. He didn't believe it was finished. Golden dust drifted lazily from the cracks in the stone. The hum softened into something almost peaceful, almost inviting. Eli whispered, "Do you think anyone would believe us?" Jonah shook his head slowly. "No, and we shouldn't tell them." He reached into his coat and pulled out the torn map, the one that started everything. The map vibrated faintly in his hand. A soft hum came from the parchment. Eli stepped back. "Jonah, throw it away." Jonah didn't. He stared at the map as the hum grew louder. The canyon pulsed again behind them. Alive, waiting. The gold had sung once more, and Jonah knew it wasn't done calling. To everyone who rode into the smoke with me tonight, thank you. Your presence makes these stories live. Every comment, every like, every moment you spent here matters more than you know. The frontier holds countless stories, tales of fortune and fury, courage and consequence, gold and gunsmoke, and each one teaches us something about who we are and who we could become. If tonight's tale moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. There's a new legend waiting for you next. Until next time, may your trails be clear, your aim be true, and your gold be real. Step out the smoke. This is Gold and Gunsmoke.